Good evening, Mr. Ruru and friends. Okay, here my name is Doni Susanto, and here I would like to present or discuss about the article by McGrath 2002 that entitled Materials Evaluation and Design for Language Teaching. Okay, so here we are going to focusing on the relationship between materials, and first is learning, ideology, culture, syllabus, method, and research. So the intention is to provide an opportunity for consideration of a number of special topics that could not be easily to incorporate within the framework. So here the relationship here is to illustrate the absolute centrality of materials in language education. And first we are going to the materials and learning. In materials and learning, learners can learn more than language from the materials used in language learning classes. So the students or learners can study or learn the language from the materials that is used in the classes. And what is learned or there to be learned is most obviously embodied in the materials as content. So what we are going to learn or what to be learned is going to be a content in the materials. So here the relationship between materials and learning has two sub-branches. The first is learning from content. Learning from content, there is so much emphasis on the use of authentic text. One of the key criteria for the choice of one text rather than another makes a text potentially interesting is its content. That is, the fact that is informative. Here, the second is learning from process. Learning from process, learners learn not only from what they read or hear on the textbook, but they also learn from interaction with others and from the process of carrying out text. This learning goes beyond the merely linguistic, for example, like negotiating meaning, arguing a point of view, and so on. And then the next is materials and learning. Here there are also two sub-branches. The first is learning to learn, and the second is attitudes and values. The first, learning to learn, such section may take the form of suggestions on how to organize one's learning. They may encourage self-assessment, for example, like the progress, learning difficulties, or learning preferences, or reflection of attitudes. One assumption behind scanning activities, for instance, is that learners who are accustomed to reading word by word and sentence by sentence will eventually learn to adjust their reading strategy to their reading purposes. So in learning to learn, here in this article they also said that many coursebooks these days is including specific section designed to raise learners' awareness of what they can do to become more effective learners. And then the second branches is the attitudes and values. Lidslom and Widett said that in order to begin to argue that such features of materials may bring about particular kinds of learning outcomes, one needs to show that specific values or attitudes are pervasive throughout the text. Okay, next is materials and ideology. In this relationship between materials and ideology, it may be less conscious but no less manifest in the nature of the reality depicted visually and verbally in materials, in the relationships and role envisaged for teacher and learner, and perhaps most subtly in the language like that for inclusions. So In this article also said that ideology like culture can be built into materials by design, and as when a country wishes to promote a particular set of national values, so we can put it on the materials that are going to be taught or teach to the learners. Then next we are going to the relationship between materials and cultures. Yeah, I think it is we have often heard about this statement that it has been suggested that knowing a language is inseparable from understanding the culture in which the language is spoken. That without culture knowledge of fairly specific kinds, one cannot fully understand what is said or written on the language. And so this view raises a number of issues in relationship to the selection and development in materials, like what one means by culture and cultural knowledge, and then the extent to which it is possible to generalize about the culture of, say, a number of countries in which target language is spoken, and so on. And then we'll go to the next relations. It is the relation between materials and syllabus. Yeah, the materials and syllabus is, as a teacher, we have been common with this relation. There are two basic ways of representing the relationship between materials and syllabus. The first is syllabus determines, if not the selection of materials, at least the way in which they will be exploited for teaching purpose. And the second is materials are selected first for their intrinsic interest and general linguistic appropriateness, and a specific linguistic syllabus is then derived from them. So before we are teaching or something, we have to designing as well the syllabus. And here there are also sub-branches. The first is syllabus and teacher. The relationship between syllabus and teacher is teachers and materials writer require an organizational framework for their work. A syllabus fulfills these functions. Then a second, an inventory of items to be taught in broader conceptions. These items will be logically derived from a statement of aims and objectives related to a time frame and sequence. Teaching procedures and perhaps aids will also be indicated in syllabus. So here, teacher and the syllabus designer should pour or put their mind or their aids that can be indicated in the syllabus. They indicate the materials in the syllabus. And then the second branch is materials writers and syllabus. So the material designer preparing a grid which shows when specific items are introduced and recycled, and the attention paid at different points to skill development. Since a grid of this should reveal gaps and imbalances, it can function as a monitoring device even without reference to any external categories. And then materials and method. In designing approach to language teaching, we might expect a high degree of consistency between aims, objectives, syllabus, materials, and method. So then the materials will embody the syllabus content, and the method that is used to facilitate the learning of that content will be concrete and with overall aims and objectives, and with the beliefs about language and language learning that lie behind this. So the method normally understood that as a coherent set of procedures can be said to exist at three levels. The first is the theoretical level, or what is supposed to happen, and the second level is in the materials is so insofar as this prescribe what teachers or learners are to do, And the third level is the classroom level. So here the method of building the materials or syllabus that is the materials to be taught in learning. They have to consider these three of level, like what's supposed to be happen in the classroom, the level of the materials, is it suitable with the learners or not, and then the classroom level also. The materials and method there also have some sub branches. The first is materials as the relations of principles. Materials represent the first stage in which principles are turned into practice. Consider the extent to which materials really do. And in the case of communicative materials, can reflect the beliefs that supposedly lie behind them. And the second branch is method in book and classrooms. In intention is to ensure that the materials are teacher-proof. That is, the materials are used as intended. The last relationship is materials and research. In relation to language learning teaching materials, we can pose some questions that is considered by the materials or learning process. The first branches is what is the first question is kind of like what is the research or theoretical basis for these materials. So in this question, if teacher are mediator between materials and learner, the materials later, according to one perception, are the mediator between the output of scholars or researcher. Then, in other words, applied linguistics bringing their knowledge and experience to bear on a particular set of problems. And the second question is what research processes were involved in the writing of the materials. Here, this question asks about the research specifically conducted in relation to the particular set of materials under consideration. It will be most relevant in the context of materials evaluations. Then the third question of this sub-branch is, according to what research has there been into material selection and use and what remains to be done. According to Beard, 1995, claims that materials writing and publication has developed into a professional track within the professional field of teaching ESL. But acknowledges that the body of knowledge on which practitioner within a profession typically base their work remains ill-defined. So here, Pierce also has some list of fundamental questions requiring the study. The first is, how can study of written text and textbook format result in language learning? How do students use text and or textbooks in the study? Do students from different cultures use text and or textbook in different ways? And how do language teachers use text and or textbooks? And then next is, are there better and worse ways of using text and or textbooks? And the last fundamental question of Pitts is, how is learning content from text and or textbooks different from learning communication in language through the study of text and or textbooks? So that's all of my discussion. Sorry if there is some mistake or something. Thank you very much and good evening. Have a good day. Materials and learning. Materials and learning is learning to learn. There are two, also they have two sub-branches. Learning to learn is like such section may take the form of suggestion on how to organize one's learning. They may encourage self-assessment, for example, like progress, learning difficulties, or learning preferences, or reflection on attitudes. One assumption behind skimming and scanning activities, for instance, is that learners who are accustomed to reading word by word and sentence by sentence will eventually learn to adjust their reading strategy to their reading purposes. In Learning to Learn, many coursebooks these days that including specific session designed to raise learners' awareness of what they can do to become more effective learner. So nowadays there are many coursebooks that is have or designed to raise their awareness of to becoming an effective learners. And then second sub-branch is attitudes and values. Lidslom and Witt had said that in order to begin to argue that such features of materials may bring about particular kinds of learning outcomes, one needs to show that specific values or attitudes are pervasive throughout